Hello, my friends. Reginald here, and today I'm here to give you some Titan builds for Day 1 Warlord's Ruin. So, I'm gonna cut to the chase here. I don't know what weapons are good for the dungeon. What you see here, I may end up just changing because I'm going to be giving you a meta weapons video for the dungeon after this. So, ignore the weapons at this part, they don't matter here. All I'm talking about is builds, and those builds are purely just to help you live in the dungeon easier. Because we are not at all using the seasonal artifact, we're only using armor mods, and a subclass build, and exotic. That's it. Not everyone's going to do the crazy build crafting stuff, so we're mostly concerned about the people who want just basic builds to run in the dungeon. So, starting off with my Severance Enclosure build. This build is all based around Flechette Storm. Here's my armor mods so you know what to copy. Do keep in mind that this is also flexible so you can run whatever you want. Severance Enclosure for the melee kill explosions and also finish explosions. Monte Carlo here specifically with the build so you get your melee back very quickly. You're using Into the Fray for the free woven mail because the tangles are goated and they're easy to use. And when you use Into the Fray and you blow up a tangle and you're right by it, you get melee regen. Flechette Storm is the opposite of Consecration, where you jump into the air, but you fire off melee blasts at your targets and you kill them. And yes, I have also tested it with Severance Enclosure. It does pair. For fragments, you can use Thread of Fury, Thread of Warding, Thread of Transmutation, Thread of Generation. I prefer using Grapple so I can get from place to place easily, and because you can get tangles just like that, so you don't always need to get your grenade back. Although the Thread of Generation does help in that department because you will be hurting for grenades. Barricade does not matter whatsoever. Now, let me show you the next build. This is a single target damage based build with Collective Obligation. So I said this before, Collective Obligation is one of my favorite weapons in the game, and let me tell you why. I like pairing Collective Obligation with Precious Scars because you get a lot of healing and it's pretty easy to stay alive with the healing. Before I show you the subclass stuff, let me show you the armor mods. You can take a look at what I got equipped so you can copy it. Now let me show you my subclass stuff. Controlled Demolition is for the free volatile and also so you get healed from it. Bastion is Bastion. You drop it so you can get a free overshield. That's all I really have to say. Suppressor Grenade so you can get all three of your debuffs because Titan's the only thing in the game that can get all three void debuffs from one grenade. Shield Throw so you don't have to go through the painful nature of Shield Bash because you mostly care about the volatile, so you mostly just want the volatile leech from the Shield Throw. Jump doesn't matter. Rally Barricade purely for convenience sake because of cooldown. Super does not matter here. You could use Sentinel Shield or Ward of Dawn. Echo of Undermining is for the weakened grenade. Echo of Instability for the free volatile rounds. Echo of Starvation for the free Devour with the Void Breach or Orb of Power. Echo of Domineering for the free Void Breach after using suppression rounds. In case you guys don't know, Collective Obligation is a very simple weapon. You need to be using Void, or you need to be facing Void enemies. If a Void Captain fires a volatile shot at you, your weapon now has volatile. If a Captain fires a weakened shot at you, you now have weaken. If a Captain fires a suppressor shot at you, you now have suppression. The weapon either does damage to targets or takes damage to targets, or takes damage from targets. And it charges its mode and then you see it all the way here. Once it's charged, you pop your super state on your gun, and you have all 3 of your debuffs going on at once. And you can cycle it from enemy to enemy, and Volatile spreads all your debuffs around if you have all your debuffs. So if an enemy gets hit by Volatile, they also got hit by Weakened and Suppression. So this means that it's pretty easy to just chain your super state. Just keep in mind the super state, while it does not have a cooldown, it is 15 seconds long, so you need to get used to the rotation. That's all I really have to say about Collective Obligation, because I'm going to let you discover some quirks for it yourself. Let's move on to the next build. What do we got here? So, I forgot to rename this, but it's fine. You see the symbol. This is my favorite Stasis build. So, let me be clear. I'm revisiting Stasis once it gets the second half of the Stasis reworks. What you see here is technically incomplete, so I'm going to re-update you on this later. So for now, let me tell you about the most broken Stasis build on Titan. You're using Lance Cap. You're using Wicked Implement. And then the other weapons you got, you don't have to care about. Here's the armor mods, so you know what to use for armor mods. And then here's the subclass breakdown. Diamond Lance, once you drop a Rally Barricade, you shoot targets, then you get your Diamond Lance. You can throw it at targets, you can kill them, get a free Orb of Power. Tectonic Harvest, purely for the shards. The shards are useful for Wicked Implement, hence why we have the aspect. You can either swap between Whisper of Torment or Whisper of Fissures. It does not matter what you use here. Whisper of Refraction is so you get your barricade back instantly, more or less. So you can spam your Diamond Lances even more. Whisper of Conduction is for the sake of Wicked Implement. Whisper of Shards, Wicked Implement, has Headstone, so this helps you get your grenade back. So, truth be told, your grenade does not matter here. Whisper of Bonds, using a Diamond Lance, Wicked Implement, or some other free source, killing them gets you a free Orb of Power. You can either use Dusk Fields or you can use Glaciers. It does not matter here. There's only one melee, you have to use Rally Barricade anyway, and Glacial Quake's the only super. In case you guys don't know, Lance Cap is pretty easy to understand. You need to drop a Rally Barricade so that when you use your Stasis weapon, you're shooting targets and then you're getting your Diamond Lance. Because once you cause a Freeze and Shatter, you get a Diamond Lance in that location. Using the helmet lets you get your Diamond Lance at the location that you're at. Then when you pick up and throw your Diamond Lance, you freeze the enemy, but then you spawn Stasis Crystals that you can blow up, along with the target who's frozen. So, this is going to be the only build in the video that I'm going to recommend you run with Wicked Implement. Now, let's run the next build. My other Strain Titan build for the video. First, let me show you my armor mods, which are far less important in this case. Now, let me show you the subclass setup. I'm using Into the Fray. I've already explained why that's good. Banner of War is a different sort of monster, so let me explain it. The only difference between the tiers in Banner of War is purely the speed of the pulses of which you can heal at. Although this does affect how good this will work in hard content, such as a GM. The tiers of Banner of War are purely the speed of the healing pulses. The other half is the melee and sword damage. Melee damage is boosted by 40%, glaive damage is boosted by 20 to 25%, and sword damage is boosted by 10%. Kills with any of which I just said, sword, melee, glaive, finisher, will give you Banner of War. You need to be killing a lot of enemies to keep Banner of War going, but how it works is you start Banner of War and you keep it going. You stay with your teammates who stay with you to kill adds so that you can damage those annoying single target damaged enemies. like those mini bosses or bosses. So once you get Banner of War going, you're probably going to use something like Synthoceps or Burning Fist with Worm Gods. Which exotic you use determines how aggressive you are, but you can either let your teammates keep Banner of War going to get the kills for you, so you use Synthoceps, or you're running solo, so you're using Worm God Caress, and then you're pairing it with Banner of War purely for the damage increase rather than for the ease of use. I'm using Grapple here, so I can get from place to place because I'm using a glaive. Barricade does not matter. Threat of Propagation does not matter here. Threat of Transmutations for Tangle Generation. Threat of Warning for Woven Mail. Threat of Fury for the free melee energy. All I have to say about this is, depending on which exotic gauntlets you're using, you're going to want to be careful on how you use this for either bosses or champions. That's all I really have to say about this build, other than Winterbite is goated. Believe me, it is. You have not seen the power that this thing wields. I have. It is disgusting. I recommend you guys try out Winterbite with Banner of War Titan because it is filthy this season. Now, let's check out the next build. Okay, so this one's purely for survivability's sake. You are using Throwing Hammer, Healing Grenade, Sol Invictus. Well, you can use Consecration, but you should probably use Roaring Flames, which I should have had on. You're using Ember of Empyrean with your solar weapon. Ember of Ashes for obvious reasons. Ember of Tempering. And then Ember of Mercy for Fire Sprites and Restoration. Super does not matter here. Let me show you the mods. These matter slightly more compared to my other builds, purely for the hand cannon. But for Sunshot, it's a pretty good weapon to pair with your subclass if you're trying to get your abilities back. That's all I really have to say. You're not really using this so much for single target damage, although with something like an Apex Predator, anything is possible. So, if you can make use of this, feel free to. Otherwise, let me show you the next build. So just to crack a joke and to make fun of everyone else who can't make good Testation builds, I got one for you. First, let me show you the armor mods, which are kind of important here. Next, let me tell you about this setup here. Howl of the Storm and Diamond Lance, because they're two of the best aspects, so it's a no-brainer. The grenade does not matter here. You can either use Glacier or Duskfield. Whisper of Torment is to help you get your grenade back. Whisper of Chains is for that damage resistance. Whisper of Hedrons is purely for Testation or your Stasis primary. Whisper of Shards is purely to get your grenade back more easily. Whisper of Fissures is if you're trying to get a kill with your Glacier Grenade, and this is to help it make it a little easier. Now, here's the cool part about this little setup. Just to show you how it works, you pop your Barricade with Icefall Mantle, get that 25% damage increase, fire your Tessellation shot, fire a quick hand cannon shot, and swap to your Cataclysmic. The only real weapon build that I have for you here, but just to show you that there is something possible with Tessellation, although I mostly made this one for memes. So, let's move on to the next build. So, this one is interesting. This one isn't really so much for single target damage, although you can make it useful for that. You're mostly using this for encounter to encounter. Let me show you the armor build first, so you know the armor mods. Now let me show you the subclass build. Bastion for those free overshields. Offensive Bulwark for the melee damage increase and the grenade regen. The grenade doesn't matter. Shield Bash is Shield Bash. You need it with Peregrine Greaves. Ward of Dawn comes pretty easily because of the cooldown. The Barricade does not matter. Echo of Undermining for the free weaken. Echo of Instability for volatile rounds. Echo of Expulsion because you're inevitably going to get kills on those mini bosses with shoulder charge. Get your melee back while at the same time causing an explosion on them. Killing, well, red bars along with the mini boss you just killed. Echo of Leeching so you have health regen once you kill a champ or an otherwise yellow bar enemy. So this build I made mostly for Grandmaster Nightfalls, but I figured I could bring it up to you guys because I'm going to be using this in the dungeon if I find a lot of mini bosses, spawn, because Peregrine Greaves, you get your melee back instantly. Once you use it on a mini boss target, it's plus 1000% on a mini boss target, so any yellow bar that's not a boss, you're probably going to destroy with these. You don't really need the melee regen here, but I figured that if you're going to be using it on more than just mini bosses, you might want to get it back more easily. So you could probably swap out the grenade launcher and instead use Monte Carlo if you want melee regen instead of grenade regen. But it's up to you. I don't really care too much here. Let's run the next build. So the only build here that I'm going to recommend for a DPS if you're trying specifically to stay alive in Arc Titan. Arc Titan I don't think is good as Void Titan with the grenades, but I do think it's better than Void Titan with its Ag Clear melee. First, let me show you the armor mods. These are slightly important but not really important at all, although this will help you tremendously. Let me show you my Arc Titan setup for point contact cannon brace. You're using Knockout for the melee damage, Touch of Thunder because, Touch of Thunder is easy use. Pulse Grenades because the Jolt is disgusting. Thunderclap for Thunderclap. Thunder Crash for some quick single target damage. Although you're probably going to be using a Falling Star build if you're going to prioritize Thunder Crash. But this is mostly for the Ag Clear with the melee. I'm using Spark of Resistance, Spark of Shock, Spark of Ions, and Spark of Feedback. Barricade does not matter, although Towering Barricade is interesting because you can protect yourself from damage while at the same time firing your melee past your barricade, killing whoever is in front of you. So, pretty useful. The only thing I have to say about this build is I like using Brigand's Law and also it pairs very nicely with this setup. Deliverance for the free grenade because Jolt is disgusting. And then Gallahorn because I can use it during DPS while at the same time Ag Clearing so that my teammates can run DPS related builds. The only thing I have to say about this is you want to chain as many kills as possible so you can keep up Gallahorn ammo. Because if you keep up Gallahorn ammo, your teammates are going to constantly have Wolfpack rounds. Hopefully you're running with a teammate that's using an Aeon Gauntlet or Cenotaph Mask. Otherwise, let's move on to the next build. Pyrogale. So to be honest, you don't really need Pyrogale here, but Dragon's Breath just came out, and also you could use a Thunder Crash build if you wanted. It doesn't really change whatever build you want. You could either use this or Curious Thunder Crash. Doesn't matter. But I figured I may as well give this one a try. First, let me show you my armor mods that kind of matter. Next, let me show you my setup. I'm running Roaring Flames. I'm running Soul Invictus. Ember of Resolve. Ember of Ashes. Ember of Char. Ember of Eruption. Hammer of Soul, although the super... Actually, yeah, it does matter because you need Burning Maul in order for that to work. But anyway, this setup is actually using Shoulder Charge so that you can get your Roaring Flames and start building it up by punching your enemies to death. And then you can either use Ember of Resolve, or if you're going to be using a damage grenade, or you can use a healing grenade and swap this to something else. Does not matter. The only thing I have to say about this in particular is you want to be very careful on how you chain your super, because there's a chance you won't always have Roaring Flames up, and that's important because Power Gale can only outdamage Thunder Crash if you have Roaring Flames up. So, let me show you the next build. So, here's what I think is the best grenade build in the game for specifically ad clear, but also survivability. Let me show you my armor mods, which are kind of important here. Now let me show you my subclass build. Controlled Demolition, because the free volatile heal, makes it easy to survive about anything. Bastion for the overshield. The super does not matter here whatsoever, although Ward of Dawn is helpful during DPS for the stacking damage buff. Shield Throw is purely just for the free volatile. Vortex Grenade because it pairs very nicely with Controlled Demolition. Echo of Domineering, you could swap that to something else, realistically. Echo of Starvation for Devour. Echo of Instability for volatile rounds. Echo of Undermining for Weaken. So this is one of the only real weapon builds I have. I'm going to recommend Dead Messenger here. So you can tweak this however you like, but the most important thing here is you're always going to have a grenade up at all times, because you're going to have Dead Messenger help you with the ad clear. And that's going to help your grenade, that's going to help you get your super. Armamentarium helps you just have multiple grenades. And by the time you have Orbs of Light built up, you can use your Regnant, which I just brought here because it has Explosive Light. You can use that to go and annihilate bosses or annihilate mini bosses. The whole point of this setup isn't to be used during DPS, although you can. But the whole point of this setup is just to stay alive and help keep your friends alive. So, one last note before I go. Realistically, I might end up changing builds and I might start recommending other stuff after I run the dungeon tomorrow. But I figure giving you guys a head start on something to try in the dungeon that hopefully works for you is something I just wanted to do here as a love letter to you guys for helping me promote that other video. People think that just because Hunters and Warlocks are better at DPS, somehow Titans are bad. I don't think Titans are bad. I think Titans are the best in the game for territory control, and they are also the best in the game for, I think, champion murdering. But remember, Warlocks and Hunters, just because they have higher burst damage on dungeon bosses and raid bosses, are supposedly better, and Titans are supposedly garbage. I don't think so. I hope you guys are convinced with my setups here, because I'm going to have plenty more to throw your way by the time next week rolls around. Anyway, my name is Reginald, and I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.